What's up everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful day. This is Sunny Solanki and in this video I'm going to explain how to create a dashboard that has tabs in it using Python libraries Dash and Plotly. We'll be using Dash primarily for creating the layout of the web app and Plotly will be used to create various charts. The main aim of this tutorial is to introduce the usage of tabs in Dash Plotly dashboards. So first of all, let me show you how the dashboard looks like and then I will explain you the code in detail. Alright, so as you can see on my screen, I have a sample image of our dashboard and this is the image of first tab of our dashboard, which is a dataset tab. And in this tab, I am displaying the dataset that we are going to use. So I have decided to use a Gapminder dataset and the dataset is easily available from Plotly, so we don't need to download it. And the dataset is information like life expectancy, population, GDP per capita for various countries of the world. And the data is recorded for the period of 1952 to 2007. And data is recorded every 5 years. So there is a gap of 5 years between two records. So that's our first tab. And over here, I am displaying our dataset. So it's a scrollable. You can scroll and see various rows of the dataset. The next tab is a population tab. In this tab, first of all, I am displaying two drop downs. So the drop down to select continent and the drop down to select year. And based on the selected continent and year, we will display top 15 countries. What are the population of those top 15 countries? So the data is sorted based on the population for the selected continent and the selected year. And the top 15 countries will be displayed based on top populations. And next is the GDP per capita tab. So in this tab, we are displaying first two drop down. It's the same as our previous tab, but only difference is that instead of population, I'm displaying top 15 countries based on GDP per capita. So we can select continent and year and then top 15 countries based on GDP per capita will be displayed. Next tab is life expectancy, and this tab is same as our previous tab. So there are two drop downs using which I can select continent and year, and based on the selection, the top 15 country with their life expectancy will be displayed. So it will be in descending order and those countries will be displayed. And the last tab is choropleth map. So over here, the first drop down is a variable. So there are three variables we have in this data set. One is population, one is GDP per capita, and one is life expectancy. So we can select one of that three variable, and then we can select the particular year. And using those two combinations, this choropleth map will be displayed. So below the life expectancy choropleth map is displayed for the year 1952, and it's for all the countries. So that can be used to explore how this variable changes throughout the year for all the countries. Alright, so that's our dashboard. Let's move on to code explanation part, and then I will bring up the server and show you by interacting with the dashboard. So the total code for the dashboard is kept in this file dashboard.py, and there is a total of around 120 lines of code. So I was able to create this dashboard in 120 lines. So let's go ahead and let me explain you the code in detail. So at the beginning of the file, I have few imports. So first of all, I am importing Gapminder function, and this will be used to load our dataset, and it's available from Plotly data. Then I'm importing few useful functions from Dash and few useful submodules. So this will be used to create the layout of our dashboard and various widgets to it, and linking various widgets to charts. So when widget value changes, the charts will be updated. So these are those imports. Next is a Plotly Express import. So Plotly Express will be used to create various charts of our dashboard. All the bar charts and choropleth map will be created using Plotly Express. Next is the plotly.graph objects. So this graph objects will be used to create the first table which is getting displayed in the first tab. Next, I have declared CSS. So in order to set the layout of the web app, I have used Bootstrap, and it's a front-end framework to create a front end. And yeah, so that's what I have declared over here in this list. Next, I have declared our dash app. In order to create dash app, you need to call this function dash. You need to give it a name, and I have specified external style sheet over here. So I have instructed it to use this style sheet. So that style sheet will be used. Next, I am loading the data set. So simply calling the gapminder function with setting various parameters true. So this gapminder df will have our data set, which we'll use to create various charts. And the year is available as a date. So I'm simply retrieving the year as an integer from that and setting it, because we will be needing it as an integer. Next, I have declared various functions, and these functions will be called to create various charts. So the first function is create table function, and this function will be responsible to create our first table, which is getting displayed in the first tab. So in order to create that table, I am simply creating a plotly graph objects figure, and inside of that, for data I am setting go.table, and this function will create a table for us which will be displayed. For header I am giving column names, and for cell values I am giving gapminder df data frames values. So this will create a plotly figure object, and then I am updating the figure layout a little bit. So I am setting the background color, and I am removing margin, setting height, and then returning this figure. So whatever this function returns, the figure object will be displayed in the first tab. Next is create population chart function, and this function is used to create a bar chart which is getting displayed in the second tab. This function takes two parameters, continent name and year, and based on that it will filter our original gapminder dataset to include only rows where this selected continent and year is present. And then I am sorting the values of that filter data frame based on population. So ascending is set to false, so it will be in descending order. So highest value will be present at the beginning and lowest value at the end. And then using this filtered data set, I am creating bar chart. So for creating bar chart, I am using plotly express bar function. I have given it the data frame. For x-axis, we will use country. For y-axis, population, because this is a population bar chart. Color is based on the country, and so on. And this will return a figure object. Again, I am updating the layout a little bit by setting a background color and returning the figure. So this is the second population bar chart. Next is the function create GDP chart, and it is to create a GDP bar chart which will be displayed in this third tab. And this function has the same format as our previous chart. So it takes continent and year, two parameter, and based on that it will filter the data frame, sort the value based on GDP per capita, and create a bar chart using px.bar function and return it. So this will create our third chart, which is a GDP chart, GDP bar chart. Next is create life expectancy bar chart. So this function again as same as our previous two functions. It takes continent and year as input. It will filter the data frame as usual, our original gapminder data frame, sort the values based on life expectancy, and then it will create a bar chart using this filter data frame, and it will use plotly express bar function. So this figure will be returned from this function, and this will be the fourth tab of our data set. Next is a create choropleth map function, and this function takes two parameters. One is variable. So variable can be one of the population, GDP per capita, or life expectancy. And year is for which year we want to show that values. So then we filter our gapminder dataset based on the selected year. And once we have filtered, then I am using a choropleth function available from plotly express. Over here I am giving it the data frame. For color, we will use the variable column. So whatever column is selected, its value will be used to color various countries. And locations are ISO alpha country code. So this is one of the column of our data set, and it has a country code, which are 3-character country codes for each country. And based on that, that country will be identified and it will be colored based on the value of the selected particular variable. Location mode is set to ISO 3. So when we specify location mode as ISO 3, we are supposed to provide a column name that has 3-character country names, which are available from ISO alpha country code column in our case. Next, I am setting color map, then some tooltip data. So what will be displayed in the tooltip. title of this particular choropleth map. So again, this will return a plotly figure. And then I'm updating the layout by removing margin, setting background color, and returning this figure. So this function will create our choropleth map and return it based on the selected inputs. Next, I have code to declare various widgets of our dashboard. So first of all, I am retrieving unique continents and unique years because we will use it as a values of our dropdown. First, there are two dropdowns created over here. So these are the dropdown for a population bar chart, which is present in the second tab. The first dropdown is to select a continent. So we can create a dropdown using dcc.dropdown function. We need to give it some ID. So this ID will link this dropdown to the chart. So when this dropdown changes, the chart will be updated. Options are list of options. Default value is Asia or whatever default value you want to give. And clearable is set to false so that we cannot leave this dropdown empty. One of the values will be always selected. And then there is a dropdown for year to select here. Next, there are two dropdowns for the third tab for the GDP bar chart tab. And again, it has a same structure as our previous two dropdowns. There are options which selects continents and year. Then there are another two dropdown, and these are the dropdown for our third tab, actually fourth tab. And this will be used to select continents and years for the life expectancy bar chart. And then again, there are two dropdowns, and these two dropdowns are for fifth tab of the choropleth map. So again, the first dropdown is for selecting year. The default value is 1952. And the next dropdown is for selecting variable. So I have three values: population, GDP per capita, and life expectancy. So one of those values will be selected, and the default value is life expectancy. So next is the most important part of our application. So next I'm setting the layout of our app, and we can set the layout of our app by setting this layout attribute of our app object, which we declared at the beginning. For setting the layout, I am simply calling html.div. So this is the main div of our dashboard, and inside of that I have one more div. So that div has some class name, and these are the class names of Bootstrap. The Bootstrap frontend framework, which we declared as external style sheets at the beginning of this tutorial. And call8 will use the sum amount of the width of the total monitor. It won't use the whole width. And mx auto will set it in the center so that we don't use the total width of the monitor. We use some part of it, around 80% of it. And inside of the div, first of all, I am setting h1 tag. So this is the header of our dashboard, gapminder dataset analysis. And then comes the html br. So html br is a breakline tag, so it will move the contents to the next line. If you want to add some blank lines in the html, you can do it using this br tag or br function. And then next comes the most important part. So over here I am calling dcc.tabs, so dash core components.tabs, and this will be used to add various tabs. As you can see, inside of that I have called dcc.tab, which will be used to declare individual tabs, and I have called that function 5 times for each of the individual tab. So for the first tab, I am simply calling dcc.graph. So dcc.graph will be used to include various plotly charts inside of a dashboard. I have declared id over here as a data set, and for figure I am simply calling the create table function. So create table function returns a plotly figure, and that will be set as this parameter and will be displayed in our dashboard. So that's our first tab. Our first tab is very simple. Then the next tab is for creating population bar chart. So for this case, first of all, I have included a continent label, and then there is a cont underscore population. So this is a drop down to select continents. Then there is a year label, and then there is a year selection drop down. And then in the next line, so below that two drop downs, we will display our bar chart. So that's why I have called dcc.graph. I have set id to population. So this population id will be linked to these two drop downs. So when those drop down changes, the figure parameter will be set over here like this figure parameter. So whatever the return value of the function will be set over here, the new figure. So that's our population bar chart tab. Next is the tab to create a GDP per capita bar chart, and it has the same structure as our previous tab. So there are two labels and there are two drop downs, and then there is a dcc.graph to include GDP per capita bar chart. Next is a tab to create a life expectancy bar chart, and again it has a same structure as our previous two tabs. There are two labels, two drop downs, and then there is a graph. And again there is a call to tab for the fifth and the last time for our fifth tab, and again it has the same structure as our previous three tabs. So there are labels, there are widgets, and then there is a graph. So yeah, so that's our dashboard's layout. It's that simple to set the layout of this dashboard. Now let's go ahead and let me explain you the callbacks. The callback will be linking the drop downs to the chart. So when drop down value changes, the charts will be updated. All right, so next I have declared 4 callbacks to update 4 charts. So callbacks are very simple. Once I explain you individual callback, or once I explain you single callback, you will easily understand all of them. So the first callback is to update our population bar chart, our first bar chart. So I have declared a function name update population chart, and then I have decorated it with add callback. And first there is an output. So what output will be set? So in call to output, first of all we need to give ID of the particular value. So ID is generally the component of the dashboard that you want to set. So I want to set population ID, which is over here, which I declare. And I want to set second value is the parameter. So I want to set the figure parameter of that dcc.graph component. And when I want to set it, so anytime one of these two input values changes. So input first is cont underscore pop. So that's this particular drop down, our first drop down. And when the value changes for that cont underscore pop, this particular function will be called. The second is year drop down. So whenever one of them changes, this drop down will be this particular callback will be called. It will be given selected continent and selected year, and then it will call a create population chart function, which I explained at the beginning. So that function will create a new figure object plotly based on the selected continent and year, and it will return it, and that figure will be set over here in population IDs figure parameter. So that's our first chart and the callback to update our first chart. Next is the callback to update our GDP bar chart, and it has the same structure as our previous callback. Again, we can update GDP figure, and then there are two drop downs, and then we are calling create GDP chart function. So anytime the drop down changes, this function will be taking the latest values of those drop downs and create a new figure and return it. Same, there is a callback to update life expectancy bar chart. So it takes two values as usual and calls this create life expectancy chart function, and whatever figure is created by the selected values, it will return that figure and set it. And then the last callback is for updating choropleth map. So again the same setting is over there. Whatever the drop down values are selected will be given over here, and then I am calling a create choropleth map function, which we declared earlier, to create a new choropleth map figure and return it and set it. So that's our callbacks. Once we have declared all the callbacks, we are done with our dashboard. We simply need to run our app. So over here I am simply calling underscore name is equal to underscore main. So if I am running this file, I should be calling app.run. Now when you deploy the app in production, you don't need to set debug equal to true. As I am running on local, I have set debug to true. So yeah, so that's our dashboard, and as you can see, we are able to create dashboard in 120 line. So next, let's go ahead and run this dashboard, and let me show you by interacting with it. So in order to bring up the dashboard, let me start the terminal. So I have kept the code for this dashboard in this folder named dashboard with tabs. So this folder has a file named dashboard.py, which has code for this dashboard. And in order to bring up the dashboard, I simply need to run this Python file, which I will do. So once I execute this line of code, it will bring up the server. So as you can see, server is up and running and it is available from this URL. So let me copy that URL and let me go to the browser and let me show you the dashboard. All right, so that's our dashboard. And as you can see, this is the first tab. Then there is a second tab. Then there is a GDP per capita tab. Then there is a life expectancy tab. And then at the end, there is a correlate map tab. So let's go to the first tab and let me change the continent over here to Europe. And let me change the year. And as you can see, as soon as I change drop down value, the chart below is getting updated. So let's try for GDP per capita. So let's select Americas. Let's select various years. And as you can see, as I change the drop down value, the charts are getting updated. So let's try third one. And yeah, as you can see, the life expectancy chart is getting updated as well. So let's try the various value for correlate map. So let me change the year, and as you can see, as soon as I change the drop down values, the charts are getting updated. So I can try various values. Let's see population. And as you can see, every time I change the drop down value, all the charts are properly getting updated. So yeah, that's our dashboard. If you have any doubts or any questions, then please feel free to let me know in the comment section, and see you next time.